Okay, well, thank you for coming to the cats, canines, and cannabinoids and all that good stuff. So we are going to target focus on you guys for this talk. We actually have a really great panel here today. And we're going to start at the end with our Ricky Ricochet. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right, my name is Ricky Chandler. Most people call me Ricochet. I am from Indiana, where I'm a big advocate for the decriminalization of marijuana and reform of marijuana laws. And I started using CBD in 2015 to get off opioids. It helped me so significantly. I started selling it even before the Farm Bill made it legal. And we got a lot of help with people that have pets, that have anxiety issues, and from cancer to pain and inflammation, and have gotten such good results. The business has grown and grown, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys for coming.
Dina.
Hi, my name is Dina Del Russo. I am the CEO of Ivan's All Natural Doggy Delights, which is a dog bakery and canine catering company. I rescued a dog in 2011 who has IBD. They wanted him on steroids and antibiotics for the rest of his life, which was something I didn't want to do. So I tried CBD, and that's what started me on my journey. And now I have humans, cats, dogs, and donkeys as clients.
All right.
Dr. Gaylor.
Hi, I'm Jamey Gainer. To stay a little farther away from that. I'm a veterinary anesthesiologist. So I got involved with CBD mainly from the medical marijuana perspective, first for myself, for migraines, and then I had pain management clients with dogs with pain that started talking about medical marijuana, evolved into the CBD world, the hemp-based CBD world. And from there, I realized it was a Wild West world and it was hard to find the right products. So I am also the founder and chief medical officer of Peak Therapeutics. Start out as a CBD company for pets. We just launched our human line. And I'll just put out there, and this is going to be true for Dr. Silver also, that I'm a very data-driven veterinarian. So obviously that there's a lapse somewhere in the CBD world, but it's getting smaller.
Yeah.
Dr. Silver.
Hi, I'm Rob Silver. I'm also a veterinarian and a colleague and friend of this amazing person next to me. As a practicing holistic veterinarian in Boulder, Colorado, I got introduced to the use of cannabis in pets relatively early in the cycle. Medical marijuana was approved in Boulder in 2000. And so clients started trickling into my office where I would do acupuncture and herbal therapies, nutritional therapies, ozone, so on and so forth, telling me these amazing success stories they had with their pets where my treatments weren't working as well. So I went to the world literature because, like Dr. Gainer, I'm data-driven to see what the studies said. And I was amazed at how much work had already been done into the basic science that underlies how cannabis works in humans and in animals. And so that was the beginning of my journey. Since then, I've written books and contributed chapters to textbooks. I have an e-commerce website of my own called Well Pet Dispensary. I formulate for companies such as Ocoa Pet products for calming and for mobility. And I'm in the middle of finishing my second book, which will be a very detailed guide to the pet owner for using pet CBD and cannabis with THC therapies for 9 different medical conditions. And I've got a blog site called nurseyourpet.com that I share with 2 other veterinarians. And I'm really happy to be here today.
All right.
And I do want to do a special shout out to thank Dr. Silver for getting Dr. Gainer to join us today because we had a panel member who was not able to make it at the last minute, and so Dr. Gainer stepped in. So
Right.
much gratitude there. Ricochet,
Yes, ma'am.
how about we start out with talking about the Farm Bill and the importance and how it is helping us to get where we are today?
Absolutely. Particularly in states like mine in Indiana, where we have no legal medical marijuana or marijuana of any kind, the Farm Bill was the first time we were able to do anything legally. Now, at the risk of saying something that would incriminate myself, I've been involved in the industry longer than that. But in 2017, when we started getting really good results with CBD and pushing it as a product, I was rallying with the officials and advocating for the legalization. And the Farm Bill of 2018 made it so that any hemp-derived CBD was completely legal in all 50 states. And if not for that, then we still wouldn't have any of these things in Indiana. So much kudos to the Farm Bill. However, there are some conflicting opinions on regulations and how well regulated marijuana is, and CBD and hemp is not so regulated, so it's a little bit like the wild, wild west. But I am thankful that the Farm Bill happened so that we can actually start industrial hemp growing and processing in Indiana. So while I'm years behind you guys, I'm as much here for guidance and information as I am to share what it's like in Indiana.
I will say that Indiana has some of the best growing for cannabis in the country.
Yes, sir.
That's true. Dr. Silver, how about we talk about safety studies showing, the science, the data about how use of cannabinoids with pets, the safety aspect of that.
Well, as a veterinarian, as veterinarians, we're very concerned. We're very excited about these new emerging materials and their potential for treating conditions safely in our animals that we were unable to do well enough with our existing therapies. But we're also extremely concerned with safety, and so there have fortunately been 3 or 4 or 5 safety studies already in dogs. There's been one recently published now on cats, which tell us that CBD, for the most part, at most of the dosages that we're going to be using for our pets, is really across the board safe. But there are certain medical conditions which pets can have, which the use of CBD could possibly cause problems. One might be if they've got heart disease, and the heart disease is not well compensated for because with drugs or whatever they might be using, because CBD can cause a reduction in blood pressure and lowering of heart rate, which for a patient whose heart isn't doing so well to begin with can maybe tip the balance in the wrong direction. We also are concerned about the possibility if there's a pre-existing liver issue, because it does appear as though CBD is metabolized by the liver, and we are seeing incidences of elevated liver enzymes secondary to CBD in sensitive individuals. And so those are cases where I think it's worthwhile to be more cautious and perhaps to consult with your veterinarian or to find a veterinarian like Dr. Gainer or myself who can help you navigate these potential risks. But in general, we have found that CBD is across the board safe. Now, THC is another story, and we're not here at the THC Expo, so I won't go into that very much. But as veterinarians, THC is forbidden for us because it's a Schedule I drug, which is highly illegal at the federal level, and our licenses and our ability to practice medicine and continue the good work THC and get sent to the ER with dosages that are too high. Nonetheless, with all the people that now can get THC products and give them to their pets, that's something that I'm trying to incorporate in the book I'm writing and all the blog sites and everything that I do, is to caution pet owners about using dispensary products for humans for their pets, because they may have excessively high dosages in them, or they may contain food ingredients that aren't toxic to humans but which are toxic to pets, like xylitol, chocolate, macadamia nuts, and raisins. So dispensaries can be a source of products, but you need to know what you're looking for, use caution, and try to reach out to veterinarians like Dr. Gainer and myself who are knowledgeable about this.
Okay, so Dr. Gainer, CBD is a silver bullet, right?
What's that?
CBD is a silver bullet, right?
I thought I was the silver bullet.
Helps everything.
Oh, is that a question?
We talked about it before, yeah.
Oh,
Well, I do want to make a comment, though. Just following up on what Dr. Silver was saying, CBD is very, very safe under most circumstances. And just to put a little bit out there about THC, which Dr. Silver has a lot of good ideas on how to use it appropriately in pets. But the terminology, I think, is really important. Like, it would be really, really hard to kill a dog or cat or horse or person with THC. And probably the more important terminology now is dog. We'll just stick with dogs. Dogs get intoxicated, but THC is not toxic to them. They just get really high. Like, it doesn't really hurt them. And so we do need to be very careful, and people do need like incredible guidance. And it's great that Dr. Silver is really leading the way on that to help all of us guide other people.
Right. But one of the things that we had talked about just prior to this was you wanted to make sure that people understood that CBD does not cure everything.
Right. This is a big point. Like, a lot of people think that CBD is like the silver bullet for everything. And we do know that CBD can influence the endocannabinoid system for a lot of problems and virtually, if not every organ system out there. But that doesn't mean that it fixes everything. And I have to have this discussion with clients all the time. They've got an end-stage patient with multiple problems, and they think CBD's gonna give them their life back. And maybe sometimes that happens, but CBD is one more tool in our toolbox to help our patients. And just like everything else, we use very few things just in isolation. And I usually guide people, if they're using CBD, let's just say for pain, or they're interested in that, and they're already taking something, to add in the CBD and then slowly and systematically wean them off or to a lower dose of their primary drug. Sometimes they can get completely off of it, but sometimes they need the combination.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dina, as a consumer, how about you talk a little bit about your experience with some veterinarians? We're not all fortunate to have people like Dr. Gainer and Dr. Silver. So how about you look at the veterinarian side from the consumer side, and what you've experienced off of that?
Yeah, so my dog had IBD. His IBD was so bad that the only protein he could eat was lamb. He was getting really sick of eating lamb. And the veterinarian didn't want to talk too much about CBD with me, maybe out of fear of losing his license or something. He didn't say it was horrible. He said he recommended steroids and antibiotics for the remainder of my dog's life, which wasn't something that I was interested in doing. So I started off actually giving him some slippery elm, which worked for a little while, and then it just kind of stopped working. I gave him some CBD oil, and it was just unbelievable. He's been on it for 5 years now, and I never looked back, but a lot of vets just don't want to really talk about it with you. And there was a study done. I have some statistics here that I just wanted to go over really quick. So there was a study done by the Veterinary Information Network of 2,131 participants, and they found that 63% of veterinarians reported that they were asked about CBD for pets once a month. Mm-hmm. So it's something that people are really interested in knowing about, and unfortunately a lot of vets either don't know about it or don't want to talk about it. So I think now is a really good time for...
in certain states.
In certain states, they may lose their license.
Yes, so we got to remember that.
It. Right. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ricky.
I was going to say that at least in Indiana, and I believe federally, CBD is treated as a supplement, which means you can't make medical claims or promises and things to that effect. So a lot of medical practitioners, whether veterinary or for humans, are very careful of what they say about how they feel about CBD. Sometimes you'll get if it's helping, keep using it, or
Yes.
if you want to try it, but I can't tell you to. And it's not that they have a lack of belief in it. Their hands are just tied on what they can legally say because it's not FDA approved. But like she was saying, I've seen some miraculous results for pets, and dogs have more CBD receptors than humans. So the benefits are incredible. I had a dog that had no use of its rear legs, and CBD helped them use both their legs. It's shrunk lymphatic cancer tumors and prolonged lives. Like the doctor said, it's not necessarily guaranteed to extend life, but we had a dog that was supposed to have 2 weeks to live that lived for 4 months and shrunk tumors in that time with a better quality of life. So there's definitely a lot of potential for pets to benefit from this industry.
Ricky, how about your non-CBD life and how that ties into your CBD life?
Well, I actually sell fireworks. That's what my business was well before CBD was allowed in Indiana. And naturally, there's a lot of pets that get anxious with fireworks going off and things. So having the fireworks, when people come in for fireworks, it lets them, oh, my dogs are worried about it, and we can get them pet products. And unfortunately, a lot of products on the market aren't accurately labeled, so you do want to trust your source. But if you get a quality product, I've seen dogs that are terrified and run and hide and shiver during fireworks that sit right next to the owner and watch them go off on CBD. So we get a good cross-reference from customers from fireworks to CBD. So a lot of benefits. We got the fireworks and the fire CBD.
Okay, let's move on a little bit here. Not sure if that's me. Whether it's in the human side or the animal side, safety is a big issue. And I want to just let Dina take this real quick, and then we're going to get Dr. Gainer and Dr. Silver as well. But Dina, how about talking about it matters where you get it?
Yes. So if you love your dog as much as I love mine, you'll do your due diligence and not just go on the internet and buy anything that you see. The University of Pennsylvania conducted some research in 2017 of 84 different brands of CBD products that they got online. These were CBD extracts that they got online, and they focused on label claims. And they analyzed the labels, and they analyzed the CBD products, and they found that 69.04% were mislabeled. 69.04% were mislabeled. And that's just not a number that I would personally want to work with my dog. They found that only 30.95% of them were accurately labeled, and only 26% of the products contained the actual amount of CBD that said was on the label. So anything that's hemp-derived CBD is not tested basically beyond cannabinoid potency. It's only tested for the THC. So the state of Colorado is where I prefer to get my CBD oil, and that is because the Department of Agriculture regulates the hemp crops. Once the crop leaves the farm, then it's regulated by the state health department, and the state health department oversees manufacturing, packaging, testing, and distribution of all hemp products. The hemp products must come from an approved source. They must conform to the proper standards, and the operators must be in good standing and compliance. So for me, that's really important. I don't want to give my dog something that I bought from Timbuktu that has no idea I have no idea what's in there or what I'm putting in my dog's body. Like you said, there could be xylitol in it.
Mm-hmm.
There could be all sorts of other things because it's not federally regulated if it's hemp derived. So it's really important to get it from somewhere that you can trust. And for me, the state of Colorado has really good regulations, and I know that I can trust what I'm giving my dog if it's made here from seed to bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make a comment on that, and the state of Colorado is doing a great job. The National Cannabis Industry Association currently predicts that more than 85% of the hemp-based CBD companies out there will probably fall by the wayside as the FDA and USDA really come out with their guidelines and regulations. So a lot of companies will not be able to meet the standards for especially production. And once that happens, there'll be a big fallout, and probably a lot of what we see sold everywhere will not exist. As a CBD company ourselves, we purchase a lot of other companies' products and analyze them. And it is amazing how some of the big players in the industry are not even close to within 10% of what their label claims are. And some of them are really far off, and on a cost per milligram basis also tend to be the most expensive. So there's a lot of ambiguity in trying for a consumer to try to buy CBD. People closer, at least in the veterinary world, are really in tune with making sure a company has a certificate of analysis that's readily available. A lot of companies like ours, they're right on the website. You don't have to ask for it, just go there. Every one of our products has a COA on the website. We're trying to counter the problems that we were encountering in the beginning, and trying to be really transparent. And I think those are the companies that will likely survive all of this.
If I may comment, Dina, you quoted a study in 2017. There was a study published in 2020. Now remember, 2017 was before the passage of the second Farm Bill. So it would be logical that many of those products were not what they said they were. But there was a study of 29 products that were specifically for veterinary use that were purchased off of the internet. And then they were analyzed for potency as well as for heavy metals and a variety of other contaminants. And they found much better results than what you were quoting, but there still were some issues. What really I think is the important point for this, though, is that when an individual is looking to purchase or looking to find a CBD product to use for their pet, which is probably going to be a long-term thing, they really need to vet the different companies. And they really need to, like Jamey has in his company, the C of A's published on the website. The C of A is what tells you what is in that product. And it has to be a C of A of the finished product, not of the raw material, because a lot of contamination can be introduced during the manufacturing process with soft chews or even with filling bottles with tinctures. But you need to call the company if they don't have those things posted. But what you also need to look at with the certificate of analysis is that the certificate of analysis will have a lot number for that particular product that you're using. It has to match up because it could be from something else. You can have a trusted supplier, but you need to verify with those analyses. Once you do that, I think you're in good shape, and you can pick and choose the product that has the fingerprint of minors and major cannabinoids, the terpenes, whatever it is you're looking for your specific animal. You can figure that out from the C of A.
I do want to emphasize what Dr. Silver had said before. CBD is CBD. You would think, oh, I can give my human CBD to my pet, and in some cases you can. But like he had mentioned, you don't know what the inactive ingredients are. And that's where it can get dangerous. That's where you can get the xylitol, which will, affect their blood sugar and all sorts of things. And so, yes, CBD is CBD, but you're not just getting CBD. And so that's where it's important to know, what you're getting, where you're getting it from, and it's just a safer thing to get a pet formulated CBD for a pet, and just for those reasons. So speaking about CBD in general and formulations, are there any other differences that's for you guys are there any other differences that that come into play when you're making a pet product?
Palatability. That's got to be the single most important thing, because if the pet won't take it, or it might take it the first time, but that's it, you're dead in the water, because CBD really is not a one-time emergency treatment. It's an ongoing process, day in, day out, week after week, month after month. That's one reason why the soft chew format now is so popular, because it contains, the CBD is contained in a treat. We've also done some absorption studies and have found that the soft chew actually, because it is a food-like treat, actually enhances the absorption of the CBD, because we're finding that CBD needs to be given with food in order to have the best possible absorption. So CBD oil can be kind of bitter tasting depending on what's in it. And some of the carrier oils for the tinctures can be difficult to take. I like hemp seed oil for myself. It's kind of feels like it's a native format for CBD, but it's not as tasty to the animals as it is to me. It's got that kind of bitter aftertaste. So these days, oils like medium chain triglycerides from coconut oil have kind of a sweet, buttery, vanilla kind of a flavor. And then some of the blander carrier oils like sesame oil, for instance, or sunflower oil are also considered to be good vehicles.
Yeah, I would just wanted to add one of the products that's doing really well in our store. Like you did say, the treats are very popular, but there's a product that uses krill oil, which is got high omega-3s, and is something that cats and dogs prefer the taste to than like the vegetable glycerin or the MCT oil. So the palatability is very, very important when it comes to the pets.
It doesn't help if they're not taking it.
Right.
I think another important concept here related to treats is we need a COA, a certificate of analysis of the final product, because just like a lot of things that you could put into a treat and then bake, you can bake that component right out. And
Exactly.
when we were first creating our treats, like I expected that, and we lost 80 to 90% of our CBD by baking it into the treat. And then we learned how to spray CBD homogeneously onto the treat. And the goal was that we had the right amount of CBD, and it's still a very tasty treat. So, a treat, a great way to deliver a product, but we have to be really cognizant of all these treats out there, and do they have in them what they say they have in them?
And I do want to mention something there, just because of something that I personally experienced at work, where I work for a major distributor in animal health products, and we do not do CBD products at this time, because we have a lot of stingy old white men and in suits that are afraid of CBD, but that's okay. But we had one that came in, and so here's the danger: is CBD for some people, it's like, ooh, opportunity, money. So we had this product come into our corporate office, and the CCO knew that I was involved in CBD, and so he said, "Hey, can you check it out?" So I checked it out. And it's being sold on Amazon. Here's your first warning. But it's also being sold in the vet chain from this company. This was a couple years ago, and they have made some changes since then. So it just something's like, something's not right. It was you full spectrum, blah, blah, blah. It was a treat. Pets loved it, blah, blah, blah. Great. Give me your COA. Oh, okay, sure, fine. COA shows it's an isolate. Packaging shows it's full spectrum. Here's the problem. The owner of the company said, well, yeah, it's a full spectrum isolate. There's no such thing as a full spectrum isolate.
Yeah, they don't even know.
So they didn't even know the basics about CBD, yet they were selling $100,000 worth of it, at the drop of a hat. And so, again, it's really important, and they ended up having to change their packaging and everything once he found out, because he was fighting me on this. Oh yes, I know it is. That's what it is. And he said, I'll let you talk to my distributor. I said, you let me talk to your distributor. He called his distributor. He said, no, it's either or, and you chose or. And so this businessman who had a, $100 million, whatever, dermatologic company that made tons of different products, thought, oh, I'll just add CBD to my products. And it's just not that simple. And so you gotta go to people who at least know the basics, and it can be very dangerous. So I just want to let you know, it is real.
Yeah.
The bad actors, and he didn't even know he was a bad actor. So, mhm. Yes. Oh, wait,
We got a microphone.
Yeah, microphone over there. Really quick to the panel members. Anything that you want to make sure, just in case we start getting a lot of questions here, because we only have like 10 minutes left. Anything that we want to make sure that the people hear?
I want to stress what you just said about the labeling of the full spectrum versus isolate and getting it from someone that knows the difference. And a lot of times you can read the packaging and catch on if it says full spectrum in one spot and isolate in another, then they may not know what they're trying to tell you. And they may have all the good intentions in the world, but if they don't understand it and they give you something that's not quality, it's not good for the consumer. So I just want to reiterate that point.
I agree. I would just say do your due diligence. Don't just give your dogs or cats or your donkeys anything. Don't buy it off the internet unless you know that you're buying something that works and something that's actually what it's labeled to be.
I think an important concept is to seek out a veterinarian who understands the endocannabinoid system a little bit and CBD in general, because there are drug interactions which can occur between CBD and some other things that they may be receiving. Currently, the data shows that less than 50% of people really consult their veterinarian when treating their pets. So I think it's good. Your veterinarian may not know anything about it, but then find somebody who does and get some guidance.
So one of the reasons why veterinarians are reluctant to discuss CBD is not because they're against its use, but because it's so new still that their organizations, they're like their veterinary medical boards that make the rules in the state for good medical practices, have not had time, have not had the data the safety data and efficacy data to evaluate, to make some sort of a regulatory statement to their member veterinarians. And so in the absence of any kind of regulatory guidance, most veterinarians choose not to engage because it increases their liability and their risk. And they, above all, in medicine, we always say, above all, do no harm. So sometimes it's better not to do something than to do something. Just as a word of support for my fellow veterinarians.
Yes. Your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a great panel. I heard that ACOA Pet did a survey, a national survey, about how CBD can help with anxious dogs, and I'm wondering if you can tell us about that. Thank you.
Does anyone know about that survey?
Well, we used a company that provides services to dogs in 5 different metro areas out of a database of 25,000 pet owners. We were able to recruit nearly 100 who wanted to participate in this study. We had them fill out a 20-question questionnaire about their pet's behavior, and then gave them these soft chews at the recommended dosage. I formulated this product, by the way, and put the ingredients together to be specifically uber calming, And the results, we subjected the results to statistical analysis and found that there was a statistically significant improvement in their scores from before they gave the CBD chews till after. And some of the questions had to do with things like fear of loud noises or thunder, fear of riding in the car, fear of going to the vet. I don't know why they'd be afraid to go to the vet, things like that. So we're very encouraged by these results. And talking about label claims and things like that, although we can't make the medical claim, having a study like this makes us feel much more comfortable when we're suggesting that someone try this for their pet because it's more likely to work than not. So thank you for asking that question.
Any other questions?
If I could add to that, and especially now what you said about the 20-question survey, that gives me a great idea to have that available for my fireworks customers as that is approaching, because we haven't done a study on that, but I have hundreds of people who have testified and testimonials that see a difference when they buy it for anxiety from fireworks, and then even when fireworks season is over, they continue to use it for anxious pets and get great results. So I think I might be able to form a little study if I could get some information on that questionnaire.
We have a copy of the paper. Our booth is just right there with those
Awesome.
colorful lights.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you do it in a Google format where people can just get in there and answer it, and it can compile it, you know, that could be a good way to, and then if they voluntarily, they can either do it anonymously or voluntarily, you know, put their information, and maybe it could turn into some helpful information from somebody.
Absolutely.
As a data analyst, I always love that stuff. So, okay, so we've got a little bit of time left. We talked a little bit about formulation, some uses. How about, you know what, Dr. Silver? Let's touch on the THC.
Okay, well,
I mean, we're here, so, you know.
sure. So when we're looking to treat our dogs, our cats, or horses with cannabinoids, we think about CBD because it's available. It's much more available than THC, and we know it to be relatively safe, and it's not intoxicating like THC is. But there are some conditions for which CBD needs to be partnered with THC in order to get better results. And there's some conditions that really do need THC. Now, CBD can work just fine on its own. I've heard some urban myths in dispensaries that, you know, you need to have the THC to activate the CBD or stuff like that, but it's not true. We know CBD can work on its own, but it can work better with the THC if we don't give too much THC to the dog at a time. Studies have shown that dogs have in their cerebellum, which is the part of their brain that governs balance, and their brainstem, which is the part of the brain that governs respiration rate, thermoregulation, and heart rate, that in the dog, they've got receptors for THC that are far more in number than any other species measured. And this is why dogs have a very unique reaction to THC when they're given it. In fact, before we had tests to analyze for THC, when they would capture a smuggled shipment of marijuana, they'd feed it to a dog. And if the dog had this very special reaction, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's called static ataxia, and I'll do my impression of that. But basically, they stand like this, rocking back and forth, because they can't move, because they're so unbalanced. So before Jamey was talking about, you know, it being intoxicated but not toxic, I don't think that our pets like to get high. I think it removes their survival skills. You know, I mean, pets are all about survival. You know, even our little fluffy kitty cats. And when they're high, their balance is off, their vision is off, their hearing is off. They don't like that. So I don't encourage using dosages of THC that would create that intoxication in an animal. But most medical marijuana practitioners know that we don't really use enough THC in humans for medical marijuana treatments for them to get high. That's not the point. There's only very few conditions where we might escalate the dose of THC to where the human would be stoned all the time. So we don't need to use those kinds of high dosages. But because dogs are so sensitive to these adverse effects, we try to introduce the THC to the dog in teensy little amounts. Now, the dosage, the number that I recommend is 0.05 milligrams per pound of body weight twice daily. This is generally, for most dogs, not enough to create intoxication and having them get high, but it is enough for them to develop tolerance to these adverse effects. So if you give the dog this low dose for like a week or 2 weeks, you can then start to increase the dose and they won't get these neurologic side effects. They will get sedated from it, but they won't get the neurologic side effects, and you will have the full effectiveness of the THC available to you for whatever it is you might be treating.
Okay, our last question.
Hi, I'm wondering if the doctors on the panel can speak to either your clinical experience or data on the use of CBD in pets for either seizures or for allergic allergies and skin conditions.
You want to start?
I'll start. Okay. So the good news is there's more and more data for more and more problems in dogs especially. And there's some very recent data on allergic inhalant dermatitis. So an allergy dogs manifest by licking and scratching. There's one published paper and one paper that's about to be published. And it shows that CBD, CBDA, which I question how much is in some of these formulations since it's an unstable acid. But whatever's in there relative to CBD definitely in a statistically significant manner improves these allergic reactions. So that's good news.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with CBDA, CBDA is the raw, unprocessed plant material. We typically will heat the plant material in order to activate the THC. When the plant grows the THC or the CBD, it's in the acidic form, THCA or CBDA. And the THCA does not get you high, although medically the THCA is probably superior to the THC, so you could see it being used for medical marijuana treatment. But because cannabis industry is based on people getting high off of THC, we have always heated up the plant material, decarboxylated to remove the acid group to activate the THC, and we thought that we also needed to do that to activate the CBD. Lo and behold, we find out that the acidic CBD is much, much more anti-inflammatory than the CBD itself, 10 times more anti-inflammatory and much more bioavailable. It gets absorbed much better. So CBDA is something to look at. And the only problem with CBDA is it is terrible tasting. When we talk about palatability, it is awful. Even when it's enclosed in soft chews, some dogs have problems with it. But other than that, we'll figure out a way to get it into the pet. So that's, and I'd like to see those studies, by the way. I've heard about them, but I haven't seen them yet, so send them to me. So as far as epilepsy, this is probably where CBD has gotten its notoriety, its ability to treat that, like especially with the whole Charlotte Figge thing,
Yeah.
And she had a very resistant form of epilepsy. And so that's where we had the Epidiolex that was formed, which is basically a high dose of CBD isolate to treat that with some terpenes and to treat that in pediatrics. So there was a similar study done with just CBD in dogs that also have the same kind of resistant epilepsy. And it did have some success, not as much success as they wanted for the dosage that they used. So they're redoing the experiment at almost a double that dosage to see if they're going to get better control over resistant epilepsy. But for those dogs who don't have resistant epilepsy, although there are no studies to support this, anecdotally from both veterinarians and from pet parents, dogs who have uncomplicated seizures oftentimes will respond very well to low doses of CBDs. Doses of CBD as low as half a mg per kg or a quarter of a mg per pound twice daily to like 1 milligram per pound twice daily. Start low, work your way up. I think that's the best way to go. So it can be very helpful for seizures. I think it's worth a try. Even for those dogs that didn't stop the seizures, it seemed as though it had tempered them. It made them less severe. There were fewer clusters. Frequencies were more extended. So I think it's worthwhile giving it a try with a patient who has seizures, but you need to talk to your veterinarian who has prescribed the medications for seizures, because there could possibly be an interaction between the CBD and the blood levels of those anticonvulsant medications.
And we are over time.
Okay.
So thank you all for coming, and I'm sure that if you approached our panel afterwards, if you have more questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to help you out. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, so